Welcome to Nailed It, a podcast featuring business tips from industry leaders, presented by Clever Punch. Here's your host, Jade Flogerzi.
All right, welcome back to Nailed It, the podcast where we share business tips from industry leaders. Today, we're thrilled to have Ryan Shand as our guest. She's the co-owner and designer at Shand Design, an interior design studio based here in Santa Barbara. With over a decade of experience in groundbreaking tech organizations, Ryan has been at the forefront of innovation with companies like Saatchi Art, Honey, and Benny. Her impressive resume includes leading roles in strategic operations and creative brand development, culminating in significant acquisitions like Saatchi Art's $17 million acquisition by Leaf and Honey's $4 billion acquisition by PayPal. But before all this, Ryan's creative experience started at her parents' advertising firm, and despite her success in the tech industry, she's always been wildly creative, blending her innovative mindset with a passion for artistry. This unique blend has now led her to come full circle, rejoining the family business dynamic as a co-founder of Shand Design alongside her mother. So they're based in Santa Barbara, California. Their firm specializes in crafting unique residential and commercial spaces, including an upcoming boutique hotel set to launch in 2024. Welcome to the show, Ryan.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
So I want to get into family dynamics in a business. That's what I'm excited to talk about. But before we dive into that, can you tell us a little bit more about Shand Design? What types of projects you do? How long have you been around? Size of your team?
Yeah, so first I want to give my mother full credit here. She's been in the interior design business and specifically has owned this business for the past 20 years. And similar to me, she has a really interesting and rich background in the creative industry in general. So she didn't specialize in interior design, but she used to be the editor-in-chief of Teen Magazine, if you can remember that, which was part of Teen Vogue. And she then co-owned the advertisement agency with my dad, and she kind of led all creative. So imagery, how things looked, how things were pulled together for the visual eye. And then from there, she actually started a skincare line, which I don't think I had mentioned this to you before and it wasn't in the bio, but when I was in high school, I grew up when I was, especially from like maybe even 13 to 16, I would go into her office every single day after school and help her package all of her materials to send out. And I would also do sales calls to local spas and boutiques. And what was really fun is she eventually got into Sephora and Nordstrom's. And when she got into Sephora, they did a tour kind of across the US. And so she took me out of school and we did that together. And so from a super young age, my mom and I have had this bond, I think, in a lot of ways that has pulled us together in wanting to create together. And I have had the eagerness of the entrepreneurial spirit. But I was pulled in so many directions of wanting to be part of different startups and not really having the gut to kind of do my own thing. So my mom has built the foundation of interior design, and it really for her originally started from designing her dream house from the ground up and then starting to do friends' houses and building a complete network here of the best architects and contractors, any kind of vendor that you can imagine from Santa Barbara to LA to San Francisco. She just has kind of built this network and really built her business around relationships. And it's what I really admire about her and is special about the family bond. But this is really her baby that she's poured a lot into. And for the past, for as long as she's been doing it up until about a year and a half ago, she did this exclusively by herself, mainly with one or two other people, while having kind of the experts in her back pocket, like the architects or contractors if she needed them. And so now I've been with her now for over a year, and we have a team of, there's 4 of us in total. So we've expanded pretty quickly from where she's been to where we are now. But that's really where my background comes in operations, is how can we build this team in a way where it is operationalized and we're able to bring on more clients and not have to say no, be excited about bigger projects. And also, I personally have a passion for people similar to you. And so I think I have this I love expanding a team because there's more people that we can collaborate with and get creative with and help grow individuals too. So that's a bit of the base, but we are, like you mentioned, an interior design business. And we specialize in residential, and we do everything from remodeling homes, building from scratch from the ground up, bringing an entire team in, or just redoing a bathroom, so we really do it all. And I think that what makes us unique or special is the family dynamic, which we will get into. And it's really what we're crafting our brand around right now and restructuring in the way we're thinking about how we do everything, like how we look into the history of a home, a history of the family, and how we select colors based on their personal story.
Cool. I have 1,000 questions to ask, which I didn't expect, but I'll try to keep it on theme. So how long ago did she build her dream house that started all this?
It must have been 25 years ago.
And was that in Santa Barbara?
Yes.
Okay. And a lot of times a business happens because you see a need for it or you're frustrated with what is out there. Do you happen to know if that was her experience where she felt like I could do this or I could do it better?
I think it was a mixture of things. I don't think that she ever thought to look for someone because she knew that it was a natural talent for her. And I think that, or I know that she's always wanted to take what she used to translate into the magazine world into like a very tangible in person with products and textiles and things that you can feel and live in and enjoy. And then interiors come back to experience. So she used to create experiences for trying to sell people something, in a magazine, or creating an experience of how you feel when you're reading something. And how every image is placed is very similar to in a home, every furniture item, how it's selected, its comfort level. And so I think she's always cared about creating experiences for people. So when it came to building her dream home, I think for her, it was very much, this is something that I'm naturally good at. And I'm not going to even think about doing it for someone else, but maybe not giving herself enough credit for how good she really was at the time, until friends started to come over and say, wait a second, can you design my house? And she eventually said yes, and slowly kind of built her business from there. And we both dabbled in studying and learning kind of on the side, whether it be through CAD or interior design courses, or going to like interior design, like camps, trade show, all those kinds of things, like coaches and growing in that way. But I think both of us are so similar where we learn from being in the field. We just both have that in us, and less from, I took this exam and so I now, will excel at this thing.
I'm glad you mentioned a little bit about experience and her journey, your journey, and how you have been developing your skills over time, because that's a lot of times a question that comes up in interior designer that you might be interested in working with, or there's a lot of maybe information that's misleading on what an interior designer actually does or what their skills are, or confusing an interior designer with a decorator or a stylist. How would you describe your skills and your mom's skills? Like what, for each of you, what are you really good at? And then who fills in the other components of the business?
So they're actually very different, which is amazing for business owners to not have the exact same skill set. We're both naturally creative in a sense where we have the eye, whether it's for fashion, for interiors, for an experience. Both of us, like if we're having a dinner party, it's like, since I was little and then now as an adult, how am I curating this for, even if it's just one person, my 2-year-old daughter? It's just a natural thing that I can't not do. But my personal experience is specifically in operations. So I come from, ever since I graduated college early, I was the first employee at a music tech company in Chicago, which then expanded, a massive company now. And I was like 22 at the time, leading the charge of like, how do we expand from Chicago to Nashville and LA? And so I have just naturally built this operational kind of experience naturally. And also the grit is the word I was thinking of for startup. You just got to figure this thing out. And so for me, what a lot of people don't typically understand in interior design is that you think of it as this like really easy, beautiful thing where you just kind of select products and then you make a home look really pretty. And it is so much fun and such a joy, but it takes so much more than selecting a product. There's essentially a whole arm of project management, and there's different levels of it depending on the scope of the home. If it's a remodel, we do have a project management arm, which I oversee. So I might be managing a roofer, a contractor, a painter, and the list goes on, and a plumber, et cetera, architect, landscape designer. And there's timelines and there's budgets and there's spreadsheets. There's many conversations with clients, making sure we understand their comfort level and that we're putting them first and foremost. You need to be an expert in communication, and you need to be an expert in over communicating so that people feel heard. And so my expertise is very much in the operations and in managing teams and kind of the experience. So like, for example, my mom will be the expert at finding the most unique product that you never thought that you would see. And I'm the expert at always ensuring that product is going to fit in the area, like the dimensions are going to fit in the exact area that we have in mind before we show it to the client. And on top of it, we need to make sure, do we have a trade account? How much of a discount can we offer them? Is it even available? Is it going to be sold out? Will it take 4 months to get to them? So there's so much to think about for one item. And then you place it in a mood board. How do you present it? What is the client experience? And so that's kind of what I help take. I feel like there's got to be an analogy for this. Oh, I know one. It's like a sitting duck in the water, right? On top, the duck is like so calm. And that is my mother a little bit. And I'm like the paddling underneath, like keeping everything afloat. So we kind of work together in such a beautiful way because I try and work with the team to kind of tee her up to make sure that we have everything we need to then show the client the end result. And so we both do shop for products together, and we both do select like tile, flooring, finishes, and materials, but everything goes through her as it should because she has a beautiful eye, and it's an amazing way for me to still learn so I can understand the craft for as long as she'll be in it, which I think will be for a very long time.
So cool. So interesting thinking about what I think you said 1.5 years since you joined working together. Can't imagine what the last 1.5 years has been like and how much you've learned along the way. How did you make this decision? We mentioned a little bit about your background in tech. I know you nodded to that as well, your experience, what you've worked on in the past. How did this decision come about to change careers from tech and go into interior design?
It's actually very personal, which I will share. It surprised me in a way because I wasn't expecting it. It came from it was the birth of my daughter. So my daughter, Rowan Jones, she's 2.5. And when I was pregnant with her, if anyone is listening to this who is a mother, when you have a kid, you're not expecting for everything to change. But things do change for the better in the most beautiful, vulnerable way. And I call her my light, my little blessing, because she came into the world and she just showed me something that I didn't even really know about myself, which is I had always worked in tech, but I had always had things on the side. So if you know me well, you know that I am an artist. I had an art company called Rivello that was in galleries. There's still items at the Hoxton in LA. There's items at Kuyama Buckhorn, the new hotel in Kuyama. I also had a clothing company for a while, and I made amazing blazers from scratch out of LA. So I have always had this drive to be in a creative field and showed myself I could do it, but I just was never willing to take the risk. I just never really believed in myself, perhaps. And I think when I had my daughter, there was this insane resilience that came out of, oh, wow, I can do anything. And also I can do anything, but I can't do everything. And I should not be doing everything for my health, my well-being. And she showed that to me kind of earlier than I was anticipating. So when she was born, I decided to make the leap of working with a company called Benny, which is an amazing company helping transform the way we look at buying secondhand. And I'm still an advisor and advocate. It's literally the coolest company ever. If you haven't checked it out, joinbenny.com. But I had joined 3 months after giving birth to my brand new baby as their COO. And I was so excited and kind of going full force in such a way without really seeing where I was presently. My body, you know what I mean? My body and mind just hadn't caught up with each other. And so I was set up in every way to thrive. The founders are amazing. The team was amazing. I got to help build the team. I brought the company from 2 partners to 60 partners in a year and a half while I was there. And I loved it. Like I literally could not say one bad thing about the company, the brand, because I was obsessed with it. Yet I could not function in the way that I used to. I wasn't able to give in the same ways. And I think partially because I wasn't able to add a creative thing on as well. I couldn't paint. I couldn't do this thing. And so I had to pick one because then I had my baby girl at home. And so it was a very hard decision that took a really, really long time for me to think through and analyze and talk to coaches. And I had set myself up in a career where I could have continued in tech startups at a much higher role. And I just knew in every part of my body that it wasn't the right thing. And so going into interiors was this thing where I had like always seen my mom. I'd always wanted to be part of it. I had actually tried 7 years ago working with her. I fully was like, I'm going to do this. And then another company kind of came up and I was like, okay, I'm going to go back into tech. I just didn't have that something that was like, you know what, this is the time. If you don't try it now, then you'll never know. And so when I made the leap, it was much harder than I had anticipated in a lot of ways, but it was like the most beautiful, perfect marriage for me when it comes to what I should be doing with my career. So I feel like I kind of stumbled through that, but it was a surprise in a really amazing way where I think for like 10 years, my body was like, and my mind and my heart, just be in a creative field, be in a creative field. And I had tried these things that weren't sticking. And now it was like being able to do this with family and carry on legacy. The whole part of it just feels so much more natural and organic and like the right thing.
And partnering with your mom, was that an easy conversation? Was it even a conversation? Was she just like trying to bring you in the whole time? Or what did that look like?
Yes. So my mom and I are very lucky because we are very close. We're like the mother-daughter. We're the people who are always like, my mom's my best friend. My daughter's my best friend. And so the conversation was easy in a sense where we had it before, but it was really hard because this felt more concrete. This was like, I am leaving stability and I have a family to do this. And I think that was really hard for her because she didn't want it to not work out. You know, she wasn't willing to hold the risk for me. And I was very much like the reminder of I am a big girl essentially. And this is a decision that I'm going to be making for myself, regardless if it's here or somewhere else. Do you know what I mean? But it felt really authentic to be there. And so one thing my mom and I are very good at is communication and working together. We do active like coaching and therapy. So we sit with people, we make sure we have third parties. We're very much in that world. And so we had people to help guide us through setting it up in a way and making sure we both felt really comfortable going into it, setting clear boundaries and setting kind of ownership. And then also setting regular cadence for connecting through therapy and things like that, which has really helped us. But I will say it's definitely not easy, you know, and it was not easy. I've had so many friends, actually one of my dearest friends, his dad teaches at USC. He teaches how to work in a family business. And one of our other dear friends is a family consulting. He owns a family consulting company. So we're very much like, and everyone actually was more so on the way of just be really careful. This can like also ruin relationships. You can either have the best company ever, or you can really ruin a relationship. So it was very challenging, and it still is challenging just in a sense that it's not easy. You have to do more work than maybe in a typical company where you can step away and go complain to your roommate. It's more so like I have to dig in here and I have to really have the conversation if something isn't working. And that can be really challenging at times.
This is the most proactive experience I've ever heard of somebody working with a family. The things that you've mentioned are so proactive. I would think that would be something that someone would bring in as once they're experiencing difficulties or conflict, or even once it's too late. But you're telling me in the beginning, like, I love my mom. She's my best friend. We talk every day. But then at the same time, you had the intuition to know there's going to be challenges no matter what. And so we're going to take a really proactive approach and bring in people that are experts in like exactly this finite field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can't imagine how much this would benefit other people that work with their spouse or work with their kids or work with their niece and their nephew. There's constantly issues. So job well done to be able to see that ahead of time.
Thank you. Yeah, I think maybe in the next 10, 15 years, we'll write a book on how to work with your family, or tips and tricks.
Yeah.
But one thing that I have recently come to an understanding of, which took me, is that my mom, she started this business and this was her baby. And so it is hard to let go of the reins when you have built something. And for me, I came in, I'm a force to be reckoned with. And I get really excited and I want to build things and I want to run with it. And so we had to work together to kind of find that balance of understanding where is it okay to jump in and where is it not okay, and what are the comfort levels. And I think having a deep respect for both of our backgrounds and where we come from, and knowing that now this is our collective business as co-owners. And so, yeah, thank you for saying that.
If you feel comfortable sharing, I would love to hear if there's other challenges that you've ran into specific to family dynamic in a business. You mentioned challenges with letting go.
Mm-hmm.
And then I want to talk about the benefits within the team. Also, I can't imagine there's amazing benefits from a client's perspective, but what are some other challenges?
I think the challenge is probably from a team perspective or client would be that we wear our hearts on our sleeves. It's very hard to, we learn as humans how to be polite or how to be boundaried in our expressions. And I think when you're family, it's much harder. We're annoyed with each other. It might come out all at once, which can be a benefit in a lot of ways, but that is definitely something that we're aware of. And I think the challenge too is that you have to rethink everything. It's not just working together, but it's your lives. I mean, it isn't just my relationship that shifts with my mom as business partners, but also with my dad, and same with my husband. How much time do we spend together? What are the boundaries that we have outside of working hours so that if we're with the family, we're not talking about work? And same with my daughter, if they're watching her and I come over to get her, it can be so easy to be like, did you see that email from this person? Should we talk about it right now? And just having to kind of zip your mouth and just stay present is so incredibly challenging. And those are probably the biggest things. I think there's a lot of other things just in terms of testing each other's patience. And I think that anything you feel a little bit with a parent-child dynamic is just heightened in an experience where you need to lean on each other with work, the expectations you set from each other. And even what's been hard, I think, for my mom and I for being like best friends is setting healthy boundaries for distance as well. Because we live in the same town, we work together every day. We want to spend time together as a family because we love each other. My daughter is obsessed with my parents. And so finding the balance where we still have to remember, okay, we each have our individual lives and we really need to invest in the time alone. And when we are able to find time together, that's amazing, but not to force it and to really be boundaried with that. I really feel like the biggest advice that I can ever give is just having help. It's like you can't do it by yourselves because then you're trying to control. It's another thing you're trying to control outside of work is how you get along or how you communicate. And so having accountability to show up at a certain time every week to meet with someone who can give you kind of help guide you is so helpful.
So your biggest challenges are you love each other too much and you love your work and your projects too much. And that's what everything trickles from, basically.
Exactly. Exactly.
What do you see are some of the benefits for the business and that your clients get from having a mother and daughter working together and helping them?
I mean, the benefits are awesome. One, it's just so much fun, right? Like there's an insane comfort level that you can't have anyone else of like kicking your feet up on the couch while writing an email on occasion. You know what I mean? Or like there's being able to like go have lunch in between a client and you're having lunch with your mom. Like that's so special and so fun that we get to have that kind of time together. Especially now being a mom, I have more one-on-one time with my mother, more compassion, more respect, and am grateful for that time with her. And with clients, it's the most fun and I think the most special, and I'm really leaning into it more and more right now, is that dynamic because we do have such a gift in being able to see the family dynamic and really see the person as the individual and build a home for them that is unique to them and really personalize. Like, we're really good at coming in as humans and having a connection first. We are very big on whenever a client is interviewing us, we are also very much interviewing them. They're the client, they're hiring us, but we know that it's not going to work if we're not both in alignment with each other, because it's so personal. I mean, we're asking questions about everything and how they live and what they like and their passions, and making sure that their kids have areas for their crafts that they're excited about right now, but being mindful of how they can translate that into something else in the future as they get older. And so it's a personal journey, and it's easy for us to make it personal because we're family. And so we come in and we very much, I feel grateful because we're very authentic in our pitch and it feels good. We actually had a really amazing call today with a potential new client, and it just feels so good to say, when clients say to us, wow, you guys just seem so, it feels very authentic, and you guys really care and you mean what you say. And we do both feel that way. And so for clients at the very beginning, we kind of come in that way, and we divide and conquer to make sure they feel supported from all areas, whether it be the project management or the design element, the hand holding, the in-person shopping, meeting in person as much as we can, everything.
I love it. It's really beautiful to think of a family helping another family. I mean, the home is all about family, and whatever family is to you.
Exactly.
And how you're going to interact and how you're going to use that space. And so it's beautiful. It's a beautiful complement of those two pieces coming together. I enjoyed this conversation so much. Thank you so much for sharing. We didn't even get into the style that I know Ryan's like the style, the aesthetic. But where can people look if they want some delicious eye candy of your projects? Where can they look you up and find you?
I was going to say, you're just going to have to follow along if you want to get to know our style. So you can follow us on Instagram, Shand Design. You can look on our website for our portfolio, which is shanddesign.com. And you can look us up on Pinterest, also Shand Design. But we have, our email also is hello@shanddesign.com. And we are always open to podcasts, connecting with people, conversations, even mentorship and conversations with people who are trying to build their business. And so we're very much an open book. We're currently working on rebranding a few things, but the names, everything should be. So definitely reach out and say hello.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the conversation.
Thank you, Jade. That was lovely. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Nailed It, business tips from industry leaders, brought to you by Clever Punch. Nailed It is all about connecting with people, building relationships, and helping each other. If you're interested in connecting with any of the guests on our episodes, you can find their contact info in our show notes or on the podcast page at cleverpunchco.com. You can also email info@cleverpunchco.com with any questions or feedback. I'm your host, Jade Flogerzi. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.